All right, here to do another one. Um, I just want to take this time because if you've been to the blog, I want to say thank you again. And also, the two is that if you've been going to the blog, you're going to see snippets of pretty much what I've started. And that's just to get you into what I'm doing. Read a little. I'm really promoting that because we really live in a society now where a lot of people don't have to read, and I read constantly, and I highly, motivate others, and suggest to do the same. Just like typing, always stay typing. Um, it's like people are forgetting their calligraphy skills because they're just not using it. All right, so you're actually on brand V, okay, with VvMichaels. And what's going on is I'm going to go ahead and explain how I got into or pulled into this whole thing. Working for a grocery store, okay, actually in Sin City is what I'll say. Now, I have a certain formula for how I'm going to relay this information, all right? Now, because this is a true story, okay, this is my story, and at the same time, though, too, I'm here to express and get my side out. That's what my site's all about, while informing and telling you an adventure that I went through that was a little crazy, and you can decide or not for yourself if it was crazy or not. Me, I thought it was one hell of a ride. So I will say this, okay, is that it all started, okay, when I decided to do something outside of the norm. We've all heard about the rat race. Everybody's trying to get out of it. Actually, I was trying to work from home and do this before it was even a thing, okay? Now that it is, it's like people can't find enough things to do when I was promoting this years before as a tester. So what happened with me is I love helping people. Okay, I'm always helping people. That's just my thing, regardless of what I label myself. But I'm quite a few things. I started to be a jack of all trades type of person, and then I started realizing, hey, you know what? I'm not really good at just one thing. I could do several. But then I was so open, I couldn't really say I was specialized because it was just like jack of all trades, master of none. So it all started when it was pretty much in Sin City, working at this grocery store every day. It was just straight bullshit. The customers I loved, I treated them great, but it was the same routine. I did it for 6 years, okay? And it got to a point where I worked in the hardest department in the whole store, okay, which they considered the deli. Deli, you had to know everything, sandwiches, this, that, and I loved it because it had its perks, it had its quirks, but it also had its challenges, and that's what pretty much kept me around. So I have 4 children of my own, okay, 4. There was 5, but now, you know, rest in peace. We had to put one of them to rest. So the whole idea of it is that I was very lonely at the time. Actually, then I ran into this girl. I'm gonna call her HRW. Okay, so HRW, we ended up getting together, meeting through a coworker. Let's call her L. Okay, L was my manager. Okay, now L, knew my situation, and that she was very empathetic to what I was doing. And so, long story made short, I was always like a roadie, just like my article says, before you got to the video. And due to my parents, okay, they were the ones that kept us on the road constantly, feeling like a gypsy. I feel like I actually lived with gypsies, really. I mean, even though they weren't gypsies, but I can sit there and tell you this, is that they moved us every 6 months to a year, which was ridiculous, being a kid trying to grow up. The only thing that was cool about it was, so I didn't give a shit about the school, I didn't care about the people, I knew I was going to be gone in 6 months. So that was the cool thing about it. But after a while, every 6 months to a year, I could tell you how many schools I've been to. You think I'd just be making this stuff up. This is the whole idea. You can't make this up. So, back to the deli part. I ended up mastering pretty much the deli. I had all the codes, sandwiches, deli sliced meats, packages, all the codes basically memorized. And that was my mark. That was me being technical. There were so many different codes. People who've been there for 12 years still couldn't even memorize all the codes. But I did. So I started off on the night shift. You get the crappy, shitty shift, working with the customers, closing, cleaning up everybody else's shit. And then actually, because I knew the codes, I started to become useful, you know, more so they started asking me, well, what code for this? What codes for that? Then I got to the point where I really started testing my memory. I started to memorize my favorite customers, what they had last week, what they had yesterday, how much, the weights, and I was able to do it. Actually, that put me on the map for that place. I started getting compliments back, left, back to back. People only wanted Mike. Did I say Mike? Well, you know, I am a Mike. VvMichaels, that is. So, what the interesting part is this, right? Is that these people, I started gaining a following like you couldn't believe. And it just got to the point where it got crazy ridiculous. You know, then I went from night shift to closing, you know, over a period of time to swing shift to mornings. Then actually mornings was where it was at. I had to be there at 5 a.m., but I only lived down the street. So it got to a point where I had to relocate once again. Now, not even with my parents, but as a grown man at this time. Then I ended up roommating with L's son-in-law. Well, when I got there, I was feeling on top of my game. This was a beautiful house. You know, at the same time, too, me and him got along just fine. He liked to ride motorcycles, and so did I. And, you know, before we could, you know, actually get to that part, it got to the point where he had to leave town. So he decided to leave town, and then he tells me, oh, well, somebody's going to come over and feed the cat, which I thought was kind of strange. Now, this goes back to my article, too. People will do, or what people are going to do what they want to do, and they always will, strange or not. That's just exactly what he does. This guy, even though he had a roommate, and he knew I was reliable, otherwise, I wasn't going to be able to be his roommate. That's why L actually put me in that position. So it didn't matter to me. I didn't really give a shit. All right, cool. So you got somebody come over here and check and feed your cat. Big deal. So next thing you know, HRW comes in. All right. And know that I know. Now I have to say that for me, chicks come around every great blue moon. Okay. And this must have been the blue moon part, because normally I don't get a chance to pick. They just choose me. That's just how it is. So next thing you know, she comes in and she's got her little boy with her. Now this guy was such a little guy, cool little guy, you know, never spoke to anybody. In fact, if you were to say hi to him, he would hide behind his mom. And he comes in and I'm about ready to try to figure out what I want to do. This is my day off, you know. I'm just sitting back. I'm having a drink or two, just relaxing. And I decided to go somewhere. So maybe I'll get something to eat or something. And then she walks through the door, and then he walks right up to me. Hey, what's your name? What are you doing? What's going on? How tall are you? I mean, question after question. Didn't even allow me to talk. I'm just sitting here. I'm like, check this kid out, right? Next thing you know, I'm sitting there, and she walks up to me, and he's like, oh, I'm sorry. He doesn't normally ever do that. And that was the attraction factor. See, kids will pick up on your energy. And when they pick up on your energy, you're either good or you're not. You know, this kid, he acted like we were best friends from lifetimes ago. Probably were. But at this point, at this time, it got her attention. So then she looked at me and she started smiling ear to ear. She was all teeth, you know. And I'm just like, I thought she was cool. She's like, well, we were going to go out and get something to eat. Did you want to come? And I said, well, you know, I can go along for the ride, but I'm not really sure about the food. You know, I'm not really sure what I want, you know, playing it tough. I got my leather coat on. I'm looking all slick. So then next thing you know, we turn around and take off. Go get a bite to eat. Come back to the house. Well, we sit on the couch. You know how it goes. You know, watching this, watching that, talking, conversating. Turned into a date. You know, one thing leads to another. Wham. Next thing you know, I wake up and she's in my bed. So I'm like, okay, now check this out. I told her, I said, you know what, before this whole thing got started, I said, this is just going to be a one night stand, and that's just all it's going to be. But let me tell you something, a one night stand turned into a 5-year venture with 2 kids, all right? Now, that was just to bring me back up to speed, okay? So then, actually, we kept seeing each other. I had this whole ordeal with the roommate, right? He goes, well, I told you I liked her. I said, you said you liked her. You didn't say you were trying to get with her. You know, I said, and in fact, she chose me. So you got, sorry, dude. You know, so I had to, end up moving over that. So I moved with a buddy over to a buddy's house. You know, a little bit more on the east side of Sin City. And then what happened is after staying there for a while, he got real jealous. See, every time I get around somebody, they get real jealous. And they try to possess me like a doll that's in glass. And don't break, don't touch. And I never understood that until later on. I'll explain that. So, next thing you know, after working too, because, you know, I don't want to make this too lengthy of a video, but it gets more interesting. So we ended up living together. We get this little spot. I went through this whole ordeal of actually leaving. You think that I wasn't able to leave or have a mind of my own because the person that I was roommating with after I left there, and I had to leave there because why? Me and HRW slept with each other, and that just messed up the whole ecosystem for everybody else's mind but ours. So, luckily enough, you know, she had some people in Battle Mountain, her sister, her mom, you know, and we started seeing each other. And she lived, you know, other way across town, but with us both working, she was looking for something, I was looking for something, and it just seemed to work out. See, now, one thing I got to tell you though too is that if you're ever with somebody, I said you got to treat it like, I give them 90 days now. I give them 90 days because if you don't, and that's just my rule, how I came up with this rule, don't ask me, but it works for me because really if a person is having a mask, okay, and I'm not saying the physical mask that I'm wearing, if somebody's wearing a mask, you'll find out in 90 days what they truly are. Sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's a month. It just depends on the individual. But I ran into so many crazy chicks that actually now I gotten older, I gave them a grace period. This one, I went against my rule because why? It's been so long since I was with a chick that it came down to the point where, you know what? It just felt right. Well, of course it felt right because you haven't had anything in a few years. So getting down to the business, we ended up moving in, and after I moved out, it took me like a month to transition. I'm going back and forth to work. I used to walk to work, you know, and I ended up staying there for another 3 years, and then money started getting tight, just like every make money online story you heard. And next thing I said, you know what? After paying child support, after paying, you know, dues, you know, after paying rent, after paying whatever I had to pay, I was like, I ended up with $150 for the end of the week. I'm like, this is some bullshit. And then you know exactly what happens is the girl, you know, HRW start complaining. Why? Because she liked to shop. I did too. In fact, actually, you know what? I prefer doing it online now because she dragged me in and out of stores so many different times. It was like I was sick of shopping. I would try to find ways to shop for the entire month just so we'd never have to see a store. And guess what? Sometimes I think she would make shit up just so we can go back into the store. You dig? So that was a battle that continuously throughout the whole relationship. And it ended up getting worse. So finally, I got online and then we put in the magic numbers, just like this is the magic words, make money online. And I should just say, fuck. That's when it all unfolded for me. That's when you enter the maze and start chasing the dragon for real. And actually the interesting part of it is that's where my life began. Next thing you know, I interviewed and put in for beta testing school. Next thing you know, it was 8 months later. I even forgot about the shit. And then next thing I get in, you know, I'm walking to work, and this is one of those life-changing things. I had the worst month I could possibly ever. I had managers acting shitty. I had people giving me shit. Even my customers who loved me were giving me shit. And I always say that once you get close, universe has a way of just kicking you out and kicking me out. That's usually, I never quit. That's just my DNA makeup is to never quit. And you know what happened? Bam. It's like I'm walking to work, and I don't even want to do it after 6 years. I had enough. You know, I'm not making enough money. It's not worth me even showing up, you know. And all of a sudden my phone goes off. And it says, you know, my name. And I was like, I thought I got hit, you know. I thought I got hacked. And I said, this can't be happening. It says, you got 2 hours in order to get back to your console so you can start beta testing school. Next thing you know, I signed off on it, and I stopped. I was halfway to work. I was 2 miles away, and I said, you know, I definitely can make that. That was the point in time where I had to really figure out if I was going to do this or not. Do I go to work and keep making that 150 a week after taxes, even though I maxed out at the top highest that you can actually possibly get paid in a grocery store with a union? Or do I start something new? It was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done in my life. So you know what I decided to do? I'm sitting there. Cars are whizzing by, you know, and I'm just like, there's no peace and quiet. It's just like all that stuff just shut out. And when it did, I said, you know what? Fuck it. I said, me being the risk taker, I jumped on it. I went back home. I jumped on the computer, logged in, bam, I was in beta testing school. Okay, but that's just the beginning. Okay, this thing got crazy. You know, next thing you know, I'm sitting in there, and I know these guys got to know a lot more than me. In fact, you know, you ever went to an interview, and you're just like, yeah, I can do this, yeah, I can do this, yeah, I can do that. It's all up here, but then until you put it down in here, two different things. Well, you know what? I got to tell you, actually, I started pulling this thing off, and next thing you know, I started going around the clock. I had 3 computers going. 3, because I'm testing on one, I'm researching on another, and then I'm using another one as a guide. I was like possessed, it seemed like, working 10, 12 hours. Never picked up my phone. They're calling me at work. They're calling me at work. They're calling me at work. Mike's never late. Or VvMichaels is never late. VvMichaels is never late. You know, they said, what the hell's going on? They called me for 2 weeks. I no call, no show. And when I got through, and I can actually leave my terminal, I went to go pick up my last check. You know what happened? They tried to give me my job back. I kid you not. I no call, no show for 2 weeks to pick up my last check after I called them. And they still offered me my job back. I said, well, let me ask you this. I said, why is it that you want to offer me my job back? They said, because they said we realized how much work you did, and it would take 3 people in order to replace you. I said, well, you know what? This is simple arithmetic. But if you want to pay me more money, I said, that's the only way I'm going to do it. Bam. Next thing you know, I'm online. I made so much money in my first 2 months, right, that I didn't even need the check. I mean, those 2 weeks, I slammed it. I mean, 2 months. 2 months, I made even more. Those first 2 weeks, it's like, dude, I slammed it. Next thing I had money in the bank, I took my whole check and I gave it to the, you know, HRW. And next thing you know, she took off and went on the shopping spree. Everything was paid. It was fantastic. But then this is where it takes a dark turn. So then next thing you know, a month or 2 goes by. And then all of a sudden, I'm working. And then all of a sudden, I see this Terminator thing pop up on the TV screen. I'm like, what the F? What the fuck is this? You know, I'm looking at it. And it starts stealing my passwords. Click, 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 click. I unplug everything. Just like, oh shit. You know, didn't even know what this was. It was a virus. It was probably Zeus, of all things. Zeus is pretty nasty. Zeus will come in and rob you blind and leave you with nothing and lock you out of everything. And I ended up grossing 42 G's, okay, in 2 months, right? Had 6 websites going, right? First one took me 30 days. And next thing you know, it was all gone, you know? And then when I got it back, you know, and I was working on getting it back, I got it back. You know what happened? It's like I ended up telling my ex, I said, check this out. I said, look how much money I made. And, you know, she told me, she goes, well, I don't want to be with a guy who makes that much money. I just want to be with a normal guy who just goes to work 9 to 5 like I do. In all honesty, I think she just didn't really was prepared for where I wanted to go, you know. And that hack, you know, next thing you know, she takes the kid. We had a kid together. We had 2 kids, actually. She takes the kid and she leaves, you know. We had a big fight. I got drunk, you know. I slammed the bottle up against the wall. Didn't hit nobody but the wall. But I was so frustrated because right when I gave her everything that she wanted, it wasn't what she wanted, you know. And right when I had everything I wanted, you know, I found it falling apart. So here again, the universe puts me back in the cycle. You know, I used to drink a lot, you know, and it really fucked me up because, you know, so many people, like, I was only trying to have a good time. All I did was work. You know, I had kids early. You know, I had kids at 18. And at the same time, though, too, nobody ever wanted to do what I wanted to do. I was always on my own, you know, even when I was with somebody. But I was codependent, you know. I was codependent on her for rides. Her, you know, the only time I didn't get a ride was basically going to work. But, you know, she was so possessive to the point where I couldn't have any friends. And then it got ugly because then I started to the point to where, you know, she was putting me in that glass cage when I first started this video talking about, you know, anybody that came by, she wouldn't even talk to them. She'd be all bitchy with them. You know, she went over to my godparents' house. You know, we had a great time. My godparents making tons of money. You know, 79,000 a month for him was a bad month. And we go there, and she's in his house. We're doing this, we're doing that. Everybody's barking, having a good time. Then she goes to her work and then acts like she doesn't even know her. That's my godmother, by the way. And I heard it. I was so offended. And we had a fight about that, too. So, you know what? You never really know a person until you know a person. But then after that, I was left. I was abandoned. I punched a hole in the wall. I was so pissed off. And I had to leave because she was moving out. And guess what? Being the gentleman that I was, and as devastated as I was, I still moved her out. She got a new boyfriend after that. I still moved her out. Where's dickhead basically to help you move your shit? He can fuck you, right, but not pretty much help you move? I didn't understand that, you know, but that's the kind of guy he was. That didn't last very long. But it heartbroke me to have a kid with this person who I trusted. And then to have her do me like that just didn't make any sense. So, you know, that was heartbreaking. And I drank even more. And that was just really the beginning of my alcoholism because it was bad, you know. I mean, I'm no longer like that. But I'll tell you what, that was a part that really got me pissed off, you know. And then I said, you know what, after I got hit, if it wouldn't have been for that hacker who fucked up my life with a few scripts and code, you know, then I would have never have went through that, but then I also wouldn't be here. So see how things work? So after that, I vowed, I said, you know what, I'm going to start learning hacking. I said, because the beta testing thing I had down, and I knew I was always going to do that. And it trained me to do, and, you know, train the mind to look for certain things, variables, stuff like that. Pay attention to detail. Testing's a lot more than just, oh, does this give you, you know, go shopping, get feedback. Bullshit. You got to look for things that other people can't see. And then you got to look for things that you don't normally see. And then you got to investigate and then figure out what that all means. Okay? A lot of people will call that forensics, cryptography. But anyway, um, that's where I'm going to stop it right there. And then I'm going to get into more of what happened. So this is VvMichaels, okay? And this is a little bit of lengthy video, but you know what? It's worth it because trust me. Check out the blog, all right? You're watching Brand V with VvMichaels, okay? This is the story, okay? Video 1. Now you have the foundation. We're going to go ahead and kick this thing in reverse. See you soon. Next video. Like, subscribe, and remember, I'm not doing this for the fame. Who gives a shit? I don't care if 5 people see it. This is just my story. Villain out.